Content warning. This episode contains sensitive content surrounding racial violence that may be triggering and not suitable for some listeners.
What's up? You are now listening to Americanized, a storytelling podcast where you'll hear from eclectic first and second generation Americans share their stories and real life experiences as children of immigrants. Happy New Year! This is the first episode of Americanized in 2021. Thank you so much for tuning into this really exciting and special episode of Americanized. Across borders, we need a new world. This is a conversation I had with Peace, who is a Nigerian writer living in Canada. Back in the summer of last year, I attended a virtual Toronto Poetry Slam open mic night for Black and Indigenous poets. I absolutely love poetry slams and open mic nights, so this event was perfect during quarantine and for its time following the murders of Black people as a result of racism and police violence. During the slam, I had the honor of listening and snapping to an unforgettable poem by Peace, entitled Wakekeeping, a Chant for Black Life. So, yeah, I heard your poem at the Toronto Poetry Slam, and I think that was your first time performing it, or like reading it, sharing it?
How do you mean, like, sharing? Because, like, okay, so it's not my first time performing poetry before, but that particular poem, it was my first time reading it out to, like, a lot of people. I had posted it on Instagram, even before I got on to do the slam, but that was my very first time of actually sharing it, like, verbally with people.
Yeah, how did it feel doing that?
I was nervous, but at the same time, I was kind of like happy, because I was in a community of people who look like me. So I believe it was for Black and Indigenous people.
Right.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where, like, what we were talking about was kind of like alongside with what was going on in the world. So I believe that when we performed the poetry, that was the beginning of the uprisings, the protests about George Floyd's death, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and those people that have been killed by police uprisings. So I believe it was very easy for me to perform that poem because it was alongside what was going on. It wasn't a different topic. You know what I'm trying to say?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, that was amazing. I think everyone felt that it was so strong and potent and very powerful, yeah. It highlighted what was needed to be heard. Yeah.
I appreciate it. And what's interesting is I think that was the last time I read that poem. I haven't gone back. It's actually part of a poem in my chapbook, but the chapbook is still being, edited and all that good stuff. But I haven't brought myself to read that poem in its entirety just because it's still very triggering for me. But I would much rather read stuff like that, like read stuff. When I say stuff, I mean books and poetry, as opposed to making spectacle of a Black man's death.
Exactly.
And by that I mean sharing videos that shows the last moments of a Black man's death, not just of a Black man's death, but for anybody's death at all. And even though I chose an alternative mode to tell the story, which was poetry, it's still a very triggering poem for me to read.
It is.
So every time I talk about that poem, I just recite the first half. We need a new world. We require a new world. This one has failed us. This one has failed us colored people.
Right.
We need a new world. Yes.
Oh, that's amazing to hear that there's more to that poem. Like, how deep. Yeah, I can see that being triggering, and knowing that there's more to that poem is giving me chills. Like, I'm getting goosebumps now.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was well done.
Thank you.
I'm glad I heard it. Yeah, thank you. I wanted to talk about your name, Peace. I feel like there's a reason why you were named Peace, I'm sure. And It's a word, yes, and it's also your name. So what does that mean for you?
What does my name Peace mean for me? That's an interesting question that I haven't really thought about. So I don't know if I have like a particular answer to it, but I guess I would say that peace means an absence of war. I don't know if that makes sense. And it means I think calmness. I don't know if I'm really connecting. Yeah, I think that's all I'm gonna say, simply because I haven't really thought about what my name means for me and how I embody it. But if you ask me like the definition of peace, I would just say it means an absence of war and a state of calmness.
Do you feel that overall you are a calm person?
Do I feel like I'm a calm person? No, I am very restless. I am very restless. And I'm a very anxious person. I deal with anxiety, and it manifests in my life in a way that I cannot be idle. There is always a need to do something. There is always a need to fill my time with something. So when I'm not doing schoolwork, I am reading. When I'm not reading, I am writing. Like I am always on the go. So I'm not a very calm person. I'm very restless. Yes.
It keeps you busy.
I mean, being busy it's not always a good thing, because and going back to what I was saying about being calm, I feel like for me to be as productive as possible, I need to have moments of rest. But because it's not like very easy for me to rest and not do anything, oftentimes I find myself not being very productive. And sometimes the only way I'm able to rest is when I am depressed, because then I have no motivation to do anything. So I just lay around. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
I'm thinking about it.
Uh,
Yeah, it makes sense. It does. Because, like, your drive to combat being idle is to do things like read, write, study, and when you need to recharge, it's in a low state where it's like lack of motivation is how you recharge.
Yeah, and I don't know I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing, but yes.
Right, yeah. When have you experienced peace?
When have I experienced peace? When we say peace, in what aspect are we talking about? Because I think, like I'm always thinking, I'm always, I guess the word that I'm going to use is intersection. I am always thinking about different things at a time. So I could be mentally at peace, but I am not physically in peace. I don't know if that makes sense. So when you ask me, when am I at peace? Like it's such a broad question. So
Yeah.
can you narrow it down a little bit more for me?
It would be however you define peace. When is a time when you feel that?
Okay. If that's what you're asking, then I'll go with perhaps when I am with the people that I love, I am most peaceful, because there is a sense of security that comes with being among the people that I love. Whether it's my friends, whether it's my family, whether it's my partner, there is always a sense of peace that I feel.
You're right.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. How about you? When do you feel the most peaceful?
It is such a broad question when it is asked at you.
Yeah.
I would say maybe when I'm alone. Yeah. I can be at peace with my family. Like, that is a comfort for me, but I think the way I would define peace is like tranquility and calm when I am alone. Even though I don't feel like my mind is always calm, but when things are still around me, like especially if I'm out in nature, if I'm taking a walk or if I'm sitting by water or something. But if the environment is peaceful, I think in turn I will be at peace as well.
That's beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
That's good. I was just going to, I think, piggyback off that and ask if you think that has to do with your personality, like, because I hear people say, I have a friend, one of my best friends, she's an introvert, and she always says something like that. I am most peaceful when I'm alone.
I think I would identify as an introvert as well, and I think there's truth to that.
Okay.
Yeah, just like that need to recharge, but doing it on your own time by yourself. And kind of, in a way, getting outside your head, or taking in what's around you, taking in all the calm and peace around you. Would you say you're extroverted?
Yeah, I am extroverted, but to be honest with you, lately I've been thinking about where I fall between being extroverted and being introverted. So I think that's what we call being an ambivert. Yeah, but I feel like I have more extroverted tendencies.
Oh,
Yes, I'll consider myself an extrovert.
you do consider yourself an extrovert? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. I feel like extroverts, cool people to be around.
Yeah. We are really cool people to be around. They call us the life of the party.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. The life of the party.
Yeah.
It's good to have a mixed blend for like friend groups and when socializing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we'll move right along and transition, talking about your family. So you said your family is Nigerian and you were born in Nigeria.
Yes.
And then were you living in Nigeria until 6 years ago when you moved to Canada?
I was, yes.
Cool. I don't know too much about Nigeria, but I know Igbo is a tribe.
Yes, and I am from the Igbo tribe.
Okay. I feel like many Nigerians who I know are also from the Igbo tribe.
Yeah.
But I forget what the others are.
So there are so many tribes in Nigeria. But we have like three major tribes. So Igbo, Hausa, and Yoruba.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, Igbo, Hausa, and Yoruba. And I am Igbo, so I'm from the southeast, the southeastern part of Nigeria. And I speak Igbo as well.
What is the biggest distinction between the three major tribes?
Language. Language is a very big distinction. We don't speak the same language. Culture is a very big one, and religion is a very big one as well. So the Yorubas are mostly into African spirituality. So by that I mean the Yoruba gods, I don't even know their names. That's interesting. I don't know the names of the Yoruba gods, but they are mostly into African tradition. The Hausas are Muslims, so they practice Islam, and the people from Igbo, the southeastern part of Nigeria. So we are kind of like mixed. Some of us are Christians. I am a Christian. I was born and raised Christian, and some people practice African tradition. So they are into the worship of like gods, the rivers and trees and stuff like that.
That's intriguing. How religion is really distinct from each of the tribes.
Yeah. And this is not to say that there are not Hausas. So the Hausas are called like the Northerners. This is not to say that there are not Hausas that are Christians. Nor is it to say that there are not Yorubas that are Christians. But at all, I believe that there are Hausas who are Christians, and there are Yorubas who are Christians, and there are Igbo people that are Muslims as well, but when you asked about like the biggest distinctions between those three tribes, that is what it is. Culture, language, and religion.
Right. Good to know. I learned something today. That's good, because I did wonder, like, I know there's also a lot of pride with the tribe that you come from, I notice. At least in America. I don't know about in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
But in Canada, I also wanted to ask about how are the Black communities? Are they all like one big community, or do they have a little line between? I don't know if this even translates to Canada, because in America, with the Black Americans, and then you have your Black or your Africans, and then your Islanders, and there's a little line between those. They're not. I don't know if that makes
That
sense.
distinction, yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. I see what you're saying, and I think that translates here as well. I don't think I have the knowledge to be able to say, like, to give you like an absolute answer, but from what I have seen, there are like groups of Black people, and I feel like what brings all of those Black people, so there are Ghanaians here and they have their own group, and there are Nigerians and they have their own group, and there are people from the Caribbean and they have their own group. But I feel like something that brings all of us together is when we have festivals like the Caribana. When you go to a big festival like Caribana, you are bound to see people from the Caribbean. You are bound to see people from Nigeria, people from Ghana, and all of these different Black people. I think it's interesting because when you go to festivals like Caribana, I feel like that is where we draw that identity, that despite what colonization and slavery has done to us, that we still have a similarity, and that similarity shows up in the kind of music that we listen to, the kind of dance that the way that we dance,
Right.
the way that we like, the kinds of foods that we eat, the way that we dress. For me, I feel like that's an interesting thing to see. I have not been to Caribana personally, but I have friends who have gone, and I have seen videos. And my sister, she loves that, so she's always there. She always it's happened. But for me, it's interesting because then when she shows me like the videos that she took while she was there, it's interesting to me to see that what we call dashiki, which is the African cloth, I guess. You can see, you see people from different parts of the world that identify as Black wearing the same outfit, you know what I mean? And claiming it as a huge part of their culture. And I think that's very, very interesting to see. So I guess, yes, despite the little distinctions, there is still something that brings all of us together. And again, if you think about it, I think it's something that I have also been thinking about, how I never really understood what Blackness meant to me, or what Blackness, I never really knew there was a word that people could identify as Black until I came to Canada, because I'm from Nigeria, and there we all look alike. Our hair, like the hair texture, the food, and despite the little differences in not little, but despite the differences in language and religion, we were a group of people who identified as Nigerians. We looked alike, but it was only until I came to Canada that I understood that I am different. But again, when we talk about like the differences in where we come from, as a Black person who's coming from Nigeria, or as a Black person who's coming from the Caribbean, and the white man does not see us like that. The white man is not able to tell what Black person came from Nigeria or from Ghana. To the white man, we are the same. You see what I'm saying? We all feel the same level, maybe not level, I don't want to say level of discrimination, but we feel the effects of racism. whether it comes to whether it is at our workplace or whether it is in schools. You know what I'm saying? There is still that there is still that collective experience of racism that we all feel despite where we come from. Well, that's something I've been thinking about lately, but yeah, sorry.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna snap to that because I've been thinking about that for the longest time, and you said it so perfectly. Like, despite where we come from, despite where our family's from, whether you were born in Canada or in America, just like whether you just immigrated from wherever to Canada or America, the white man will see you as black.
Absolutely. Which is also why I'm very involved with Twitter. I just love Twitter. I like when I'm not on Instagram, which it's too visual for me. I love Twitter, and it's interesting to me to see the kind of discourse that goes on Twitter, especially when we say things like, oh, Nigerian Twitter or Black Twitter or African Twitter. And often I find people from my side, not just Nigerians, but I have seen people saying that they have a difficulty relating to Black Americans simply because there is hate simply because they feel as though the Black Americans hate us. So by us, I mean hate Africans. And they have a difficulty empathizing with what our history is, which is a history of slavery and colonization and all of that. So when they say stuff like they have a hard time empathizing with that, I don't have the word for it, but I just feel confused about it, because don't these people know that it does not matter where you come from? What the white man is going to see you is as a Black person, and he or she is going to let me correct something. What the racist white man is going to see you as is a Black person. Definitely, like, they are not going to say, okay, well, she or he is from Nigeria, so we are going to temper racism with mercy. No. So how are you telling me that you have a hard time empathizing with people who look like you, who may have the same hair texture as you? How are you telling me that you have a hard time empathizing with them? Or don't you know that if you are here, that you can become, like, I don't know how to phrase it because English is not my first language, so I struggle with that too. But don't you understand that you could be George Floyd or Ahmaud Arbery? These people were not killed because they were, let's say, maybe a Caribbean American, no, they were not killed because of where they came from. They were killed simply because of the color of their skin, because they were Black. So how are you going to tell me that you feel like you're different from Black Americans, and that you feel that you have a hard time with empathizing with them? And the problem, I feel like, again, the question remains, why is there a them? That distinction does not work for me, because in my eyes we are all one, and in my eyes I know we can go back and talk about, the descendants of slavery and what slavery has done, and how diaspora cannot be diaspora because as the year moves by, you are further away from home, so you cannot relate to someone who's African or that. Like, we could go back and talk about all of that, but don't you understand that we all, at the end of, when it's all said and done, the experience that we get from the racist white man is the same. Anyway, that's my rant. Sorry about that.
No, you say exactly what I think. It's amazing. At the end of the day, we're all Black. We all come back to this common skin.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I know people like Africans who do say that they don't understand it, they can't relate. And I find that interesting because coming straight from Africa, it's likely you'll have an accent, and the difference between a person from Africa and a black American, I feel can be very distinct, and discrimination may be harder on a person coming from Africa. And like what you said about coming from Nigeria, where everyone looks the same, everyone has the same hair texture, and you don't understand or you don't see the difference until you're in a country with more diversity, you know, then you see the real, like how different you are.
Absolutely. You see how different you are from the person who comes from Iran or Pakistan or from Italy. You see the difference between, but how much of a difference can you see in yourself as a black person from the person who comes from the other black person who comes from Caribbean, from a Caribbean country? You know what? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
And I feel like it's easy for us to relate because we, like, the African black person, which I don't know if that's a thing, the African black person and the black American or the Caribbean black person, there is that in my head, this may not be what theory says, okay? But this is what I can see from my lived experience. There is that I feel like it's easy for us to all blend in because we understand that we have a similar problem.
Right.
And that problem is not the color of our skin because I refuse to see my dark skin as a problem. But we understand that we share a similar problem, which is white supremacy, which is racism. So it is that trauma that bonds us together. If I see a black person stopped on the street or being abused, I'm not going to stop and examine if that black person is a Nigerian black or a Caribbean black or a black American or whatever name you want to give it. I'm going to stop because that person looks like me.
Right,
that person has the color of my skin. And that could be me. Anyways, moving on.
Exactly right.
Moving on.
What you said reminded me of this book I read, Americana.
Oh, yes. By Chimamanda.
Yes, Adichie.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love that book so much.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, what you said. When she came to America, that's when she knew she was black.
Yeah.
It's like what you said. You didn't know that word or identifying as black until you came to Canada.
No.
Which is so interesting.
And that is, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, because just I was born here, so in America, so it's like I see the difference like right away. I'm sure the doctor who pulled me out was white, so I saw that difference right away.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah. Yeah, but that's what I have to say about that. I do not have the language to articulate my lived experiences the way that people who write books, the academics would do. But just because I don't have that language and I cannot intellectualize it does not make it any less valid.
Exactly.
So yes, that is how I feel, and that is my lived experience.
Thank you for sharing.
And I like to feel. No worries. Thank you.
Have you heard of the book called The Black Hole?
No, I haven't. Who wrote it and what is it about?
It's called Black Hole: 1000 Streams of Blackness by Rebecca Walker.
I haven't heard of that book. I can look it up. Rebecca Walker. What is it about?
It kind of highlights stories of different black people, black Americans, and how it kind of looks at their identity and what that means to them. Like, there's one story, or like different types of black people, I guess, like how different we are, but how similar at the end of the day, as we were saying. There's this one part that I wanted to share. It says, African American identity was forged in an environment of the external violence of white supremacy. Everything African was belittled, devalued, demonized, disregarded. In response to such a climate, identity had to be rigid or it would be useless. Identity in this situation became armor, hard and unbending, protecting those who wore it from being defined by those who would do so to destroy them.
I like that.
Yeah, I read it years ago and I just felt it's empowering, I feel, if you're a Black person reading it. And that excerpt I read was from Matt Johnson and it's called The Geek. So he talks about Black geeks, like nerdy Black people, and how there's power in that.
I'll add that to my book list.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
interesting.
enjoy reading, so I'm just gonna add that to my book list.
Mm-hmm.
By Rebecca Walker.
What is your main inspiration on using your voice in poetry?
My main inspiration on using my voice, I feel like poetry was the only way. Well, it's not the only way, because I also write prose. I like to tell stories, and this is not to say you cannot tell stories with poetry, but I feel like, I feel like poetry was the only way for me to be able to articulate the things that I was feeling. And if you, like, I'm not sure I really understand the question, but I'm guessing that you are asking me, like, why I write poetry. Is that what you were asking? Like, the main inspiration why I write poetry?
Yes. How did you start? How did you get into that?
Oh, it's interesting because I've always, like, I grew up in Nigeria, and the schools that I went, they would always make us, like, read prose and poetry. And I never really liked poetry, but I really did enjoy prose. Up until I think 2018, I was beginning to question certain things about myself and my identity. And poetry became the way for me to explain, because I needed that complexity, because I wanted to be able to say this is what I'm feeling, but I didn't want to say it in a way that everybody would understand. Like, I didn't want to make it very plain, unless people who are interested in poetry, unless someone actually takes their time to read what I have written. I didn't want to make it that simple. I guess that was one of the reasons why I got into poetry. I needed a way to articulate things that I was feeling. Yeah. And since then, I think I've also shifted my poetry from not just my feelings, like in my personal life, but also incorporating things like social justice, because that's a cause that I care about. And I cannot tell you why I care about it. I just care about it. It's not just because it affects me. It's something that I just care about. I guess that's what I'm going to say. But yes, I have since shifted the trajectory of my poetry to include social justice causes. And I guess that was where we met, because you saw me perform in one of my poems that was talking about police brutality.
Right. Exactly. So you did start off with wanting a way to express yourself and articulate your feelings in a way that wasn't super obvious for people to understand.
Yeah. Like, I wanted to express myself, but at the same time, I wanted it to be vague, because I think I was afraid of being judged. At first, it started with me being, with me writing very, very explicitly in my journal, just saying the things that I wanted to say without a play on words, without making it sound vague, But then when I knew that I would probably want to post some of the things that I was writing, that was when I guess, deepened my understanding of poetry and started reading more, because now, like, so I feel like my first introduction to poetry was Rupi. I really loved Rupi's work. And because of the way she wrote, it was easy for me to articulate my feelings explicitly in my journal. Okay. But when I knew that I wanted to post some of the things that I was writing, there was a need for me to broaden my understanding of poetry. And I moved from reading Rupi's work to reading other works, like the works of Dion Brand, of Langston Hughes, of Audre Lorde, and the way they articulated themselves appealed to me, because he was not very explicit, or rather I would say it was explicit, but only if you took the time to read it, and I wanted that for myself.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. The rupees are really good.
She does happen.
Are these poems that you keep them for yourself, or do you put them out there and share with others, like your personal writings?
My personal writings, I put them out there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's all on my Instagram. Maybe not now, because I had to take some of them down, just because I was in the middle of compiling. Well, I still am in the middle of compiling my chapbook and stuff like that. So I had to take some of my poems down. But yeah, I absolutely have no fear posting it out there.
Right.
So in such, like, again, like my thing with those personal poems, but to be intentionally vague unless someone reads it carefully.
All right, that's really interesting. It's kind of, would you say it's like up to their own interpretation, or like is it that vague that it can mean anything?
Well, but I think both of them. There is that part where it's up to their interpretation, and there is also that part where if they read it again, they can be able to say, this is what this person is trying to say, evidenced by so and so words. And yeah, I have actually because I love poetry so much, I've actually had people like DM me some of my works, and they were like, is this all you were trying to say? Or like, oh my God, I relate so much to this. And they tell me their own experience, and I'm like, wow, thanks for sharing. You know, without actually explaining to them what it was about.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say it like makes it relatable. That if it's
Like,
not, yeah.
well, I'm glad you could relate to it. Thank you so much for sharing your story with me. And it ends there.
It's good. You're reaching people.
That's what matters.
Right. Do you have favorite poets or authors or books that you like?
Oh my gosh.
A
Yes.
long list.
Yes. I have a long list. It's interesting because this year I am on, like, I have a goal to read at least 30 books this year. And Goodreads tells me that I am on book 24, going on 25.
Ooh, so exciting.
So, yes, it is. So if you ask me some of my favorite books, I'm gonna just say I am in love with Christina Sharp. I love her so much, and I have read her book In the Wake, and it's one, like, when you ask me my top 10, I'm gonna say Christina Sharp, In the Wake. I also, one of my favorite writers, I love Chimamanda Adichie. I love her work so much. I love Audre Lorde, and I read this. So it was, I think, yeah, it was a compilation of her essays and speeches. I think it's called Sister Outsider, and in Sister Outsider there were 3 essays that I love so much. I think one of them is called The Uses of Anger. The other one, Transformation of Silence. So I think these 2, I can't remember what the third one is called, but I love Audre Lorde. I also love Langston Hughes. I have read pretty much, I don't want to say all of his poetry, simply because I have this big book that is a collection of all of his poems, but that too, I have read every poem in that book. So yes. I am getting into the works of Dion Brand. And how can I end this without saying Toni Morrison? Oh my Lord. Oh, how? I feel like it's a treason not to like Tony Morrison, Dr. Tony. It's a treason not to like Dr. Tony.
Exactly. Are you a fan of James Baldwin?
Why did I not mention him? Yes, you know what? I have his book. I have two of his book right here on my shelf. The one that I have read is If Beale Street Could Talk. And I have this one called Go Tell It on the Mountain. I have yet to read Go Tell It on the Mountain. But yes, I love James Baldwin. I have listened to his interviews. And I have read just one of his books, but I have not read enough of his books to be able to say I love him as a writer.
Right.
But I love James Baldwin. I love him.
Yeah, as a person.
As a person, and what he stood for.
Yeah, I love his work.
Oh, which of his works is your favorite?
I don't know if I have a favorite. I mean, I haven't read a lot of him to have to know, but I've read Giovanni's Room.
Oh.
And I started If Beale Street Could Talk.
Oh, If Beale Street Could Talk.
Yeah.
A love story. I love it. I love it. I think there's a line in that book that says, it's a miracle to find someone that loves you. And I just love, it's so simple, but at the same time, it's so profound to me. And every time, me and my friends, when we talk about relationship and love and all that stuff, I just find myself returning back to that word, to that line. It's a miracle to find someone who loves you. Yeah.
That makes you think when you hearing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's not easy to love somebody. And when I say love, as in love, not our idea of what love is, but to love someone unconditionally, that's not an easy task.
Right.
So just that line alone, it's a miracle to find someone that loves you. How can that not be profound? How can that not make people think, wow, especially when you digest what it means to have someone that loves you, and then to emphasize unconditionally. That's something. That's something.
Yes, there are layers to that.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So coming from a Nigerian background, was your family in full support of your passions with reading and poetry?
Oh, I don't know if I'm going to say full support. I feel like it's one of those things where, when people have hobbies, I feel like if I wanted to pursue poetry as a career, my parents would probably oppose that. And it reminds me of something one of my favorite writers, Dion Brand, said. So she, I think it was during one of my friends' graduation ceremony, Dion Brand was invited to speak, and she said something that poetry does not earn you money, but it earns you a life, and that's huge. That's huge. I cannot think of people who are poets that are necessarily millionaires. They might be comfortable. I don't know how comfortable, but that are just in the upper class. I guess when we talk about income level and all of that, I don't know that. So if I wanted to pursue poetry as a career, as a full-time career, I think my parents would be opposed to it. But poetry is just something that I do, so they don't really care or have an opinion on it. But my mom enjoys the fact that I love to read. She loves that I read so much. But every now and then she just chimes in to say stuff like, oh, make sure you are reading Christian books as well, so that you can have, a balanced knowledge and it's not just secular knowledge. And I'm like, hey mom, I heard you.
Right.
But yeah. Oh, it's always about religion for them.
Right.
Oh.
Is that a Christian book you're reading?
No, she doesn't often ask me, is that a Christian book that I'm reading? She will probably just say stuff like, when was the last time you read a Christian book? Or do you still read Christian books?
That's funny.
And I say no.
Gotta
I
be
say
honest.
no. And refuse the guilt. And she doesn't always like that. But yeah.
Because, yeah, I mean, it's your life at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I am not. And I try to tell my mom often, Mom, I am not an extension of you, I gotta do my own thing. And you may not always approve of it, but you have to respect it. And it's not always easy for African parents to do as they are told. At least my parents don't do as they are told. They need several reminders to respect the boundary. Like, okay, Mom, I have heard you, but this is what I want to do, and please respect that. No, it's not always easy for them. They have to take it back to their own days. When I was your age, I always do. Well, my mom's, well, Mom, I'm not your age, and it's not your time. Please, let me be.
I needed to hear that. I did.
You know what? It's interesting. One of the books that I read recently, I think it was my book number 22 or 23, I can't recall, but it's called The Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. And there was a part in that book, I think, yes, page 82, I have it open, that said, it says, a tree cannot grow in its parents' shadows. And I think of this line all the time. Every time I want to rebel against my parents and I know they're going to say some stuff, I just think of that line, the tree cannot grow in its parents' shadows. And I feel empowered to go ahead and do what I want to do. And to go ahead and do it and refuse the guilt, because that's important. Because now, just do it with confidence. Do what you have to do with confidence and defend your actions with confidence. Because when you show that sign of weakness, I feel like African parents have a thing with entitlement and, with respectability and all of that good stuff. So when you do what you, I feel like I'm going off tangent, but anyways, when you do whatever it is that you want to do, it's important that you do it with confidence and that you are able to defend it. Because they are going to come, okay? They're going to come for you. So every time I want to rebel, I just think of that line and do it anyways.
Thank you for sharing that. I needed to hear that.
Let me tell you.
That makes sense. And you said, I never heard that said before, parents need to do what they're told.
Yeah, do what they are
Never heard.
Oh my God, I feel like, okay, first of all, I'm not trying to infantilize our parents, okay? Because when you say do what you're told, it's almost as though, like, no.
Yeah, it's something you say to a child.
That's something you say to a child. Oh my God, no. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. But let me rephrase it. I feel like African parents have a hard time with their children.
They do.
Well, not just their children, even their adult children making their own decision. So sometimes I have to say, Mom, an example is, so, my mom is at home. We have this thing, we call her the assistant Holy Spirit. It's something I call her all the time because everything for her is about religion and it's about Jesus, and that's cool, okay? But once I had posted a white and black picture of me on WhatsApp, she looked at it and she said to me that I have to take this picture down because it represents darkness and she cannot see me. And that made me laugh, and I'm like, wait, Mom, what do you mean? And she was like, you are a daughter of the light and not of darkness. I cannot see you. And I told her, you know what, Mom, I like that picture. If you look clearly, you can see me, and I don't want to take it down. And then she tried to sweet talk me by saying, I love you and Jesus loves you and you need to listen to me. And I'm like, I know you love me and I know that Jesus loves me, but I want that picture there because I can clearly see myself there and it's making me happy. you know? And she was like, everyday argument with you, and she backed down, you know? But it's even little things like this where you get to claim your autonomy.
Right.
It's very, I have heard stories of people who were like 30 years old still being slapped and beaten by their parents. And that to me is absurd.
Mm-hmm.
It's I it, and I feel like I am probably it's probably problematic to say African parents, but it's because we are used to saying African parents. There are so many African countries. But that is my experience. And and I've heard about the same thing, like I've heard of the same thing. Like so many people have said the same thing. That's a better way to phrase it. Their own experiences with their own parents. And I guess that was what prompted me to say African parents are not used to are not used to doing as they are told. That's something you say to a child, and I do not intend to infantilize or disrespect our parents, but that was me saying African parents have a problem with boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
They have a problem with boundaries, just especially when it comes to the children.
Right. It's
Yeah.
100% true. I just thought that was so funny.
No, I have to rephrase that, okay? I definitely have to rephrase that to make it sound.
I think it's so true. It's so truthful. I mean, you can rephrase it if you want, but I think it's perfect. Simple, yeah. They have a problem with respect. It's not, it's like a one-way thing for them.
Absolutely. You have to decide your children's career, your children's spouse, like and that's problematic for me. I feel like that's not that I know it's problematic for me. And quite often I have to assert myself in my house and do it without, like I always say, do it without guilt. And refuse the guilt, because that's the only way that I can build my autonomy. If not, I am going to end up doing what they want me to do. I am only going to be an extension of myself. And like that place that I shared with you in Octavia Butler's book, The Parable of the Sower, there is no way that you can grow if you're under your parents' shadows. You don't get to choose your religion because your parents are Christians, therefore you are Christian. You don't get to become a lawyer because your parents want you to become a doctor, so now you're studying to become a doctor. That's not my case. I actually wanted to be a lawyer. They wanted me to become a nurse because, according to them, I'm way too blunt, and I could get killed as a lawyer. I mean, not just because I'm a lawyer, but because I'm also a woman. So, and I chose nursing, but then it was in my third year of nursing that I realized that, and even though I've always said, you know what, if I'm not a lawyer, I'm going to become a nurse, it was in my third year of nursing that I realized that I cannot become a nurse for long term, that I want more. And it was becoming a doctor, specifically a psychiatrist. That was what interested me. So I'm in the process of changing my career, and they're very supportive of that. You know what I mean? But just to go back, sometimes most people don't get to choose the career because their parents want them to become a doctor when they want to become a lawyer, or a lawyer when they want to become a writer, or a doctor when they want to become musicians. You see, like there are so many things that you don't get to choose. So when I feel as though that at some point you should be able, and quite often I've heard my parents say stuff like, "Oh, if you want to do that, you have to move out of my house." Well, that's a little tricky to me because I don't have the means to move out of your house. You know what I mean? I don't have the means to move out and stay on my own. But until I am able to do that, are you going to tell me that you're going to suppress me? You may have to kill me. but I can only say that because I am very unyielding. I'm very stubborn. So that's how I can only say that.
That's so good. I love you saying you're not an extension of your parents.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's good.
you're not. I remember, and come think again where I come from and where I was raised. Like, I was born into, I come from a people who are very religious. Okay, and that I come from a people who are very religious and who interpret everything as an order from God. So I remember when my brother first pierced his ears, it was such a huge fight in my house because their interpretation was that now he is bound to go to hell because the Bible says a man should not pierce his ears. Just little things like that, but I was like, just I don't know how to articulate it to make sense. But the bottom line is African parents do too much. They do too much. And sometimes they need, hey, mom, I understand you and I respect you, but no.
Right.
And please respect my no. I don't want to debate it. I don't want to explain why I have to say no. Just respect it.
I like that. Okay, I was gonna ask if you would mind sharing your poem.
So the title of the poem is called Wakekeeping, a Chant for Black Life. We need a new world. We require a new world. This one has failed us. This failed Black people. This one has failed us colored people. We need a new world. We require a new world. Her name is Regis Konchiki Pake. The police pushed her off her balcony from the 24th floor. To her death, she fell. We need a new world. We require a new world. This one has failed us. His name is Judge Floyd. Just like in Ghana, he could not breathe when on his neck the police pinned him down. We need a new world. We require a new world. This one has failed us. Her name is Breonna Taylor. She met her demise in her sleep when the police broke in search of someone else, and 8 times they shot her. We need a new world. We require a new world. This one has failed us. His name is Ahmaud Arbery. He met his demise on a sunny afternoon when 2 white men shot him. He looked like a thief, they claimed. We need a new world. We require a new world. This one has failed us. His name is Bottom John. Just like that, he lost his life. But how does one become a burglar in one's own house? We need a new world. We require a new world. This one has failed us. His name is Philando Castile. In a blink of an eye, he was gone. Just like that. He was murdered in front of his 4-year-old daughter and his girlfriend. I was afraid for my life, his killer said. Just like Trayvon Martin's killer. He looked suspicious. But what is it about blackness that is so communitarian, threatening, evil, menacing? What is it about blackness that makes it worthy of death? We need a new world. We require a new world. This one has failed us. And then there is Emmett Till. He was 14 when he was accused of assaulting a white woman. In her words, Emmett grabbed her waist and uttered obscenities. He was 14. So when night fell, he was abducted and beaten and mutilated and killed. He was 14. And it does make me wonder if kids will always be kids unless it's a black kid involved. We need a new world. We require a new world. This one has failed us. The names are Richard Brooks, Elijah McClain, Albert Johnson, Tony McDade, Andrew Buddy Evans, Mike Brown, Michael Dawn, Jordan Davis, Sandra Bland, Tamir Rice, Michael Brown, Terence Clocher, Alton Sterling, Jamal Clark, Jeremy McDowell, Eric Harris, Kate Childress, Betty Jones, and the million others who lost their lives to the treachery of whiteness, of white supremacy, and transatlantic slavery. But these are the ones we know. These are the ones we heard. There are many others whose murders go unheard, whose killers are yet to be brought to justice, who may never be brought to justice. We need a new world. We require a new world. This one has failed us. This one has failed Black people. This one has failed us colored people. We need a new world. We require a new world. Whew, that was triggering as hell.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Yes.
So potent.
Thank you. Thank you.
He said it all.
We need a new world.
Yep.
This one is no longer working for us. It's no longer working. We need to set differently. This whole entire world has to go.
I'm so thankful I got to hear it, heard it again, and it sticks with you. This poem is one to really stick with you.
Thank you. I think it's interesting because I did not really plan for this to become a poem. I remember the day I wrote it, it was just like a caption. We need a new world. We require a new world. But then more things just kept coming to my spirit, and I had to write it down. And that was how this poem came to be.
Yeah, it's perfect. I want to highlight when you talk about Emmett Till and you emphasize 3 times that he was 14.
Yes.
That really does something.
It does. It really does because you, like, I feel like what I was trying to do was get the reader to imagine how a 14-year-old could grab a woman in probably her 30s by the waist, and what kind of obscenities will a 14-year-old say? You know what I mean?
Yes.
It reminds me of something that I read. I think it was in Angela Davis' book, Are Prisons Obsolete? And she mentioned how, I can't remember who, I don't know if it's Frank Douglas, I can't remember, but she was saying how crime is assigned to color. And if you are Black, it means that you are prone to commit crime. So I think that was why I followed it up with, I wonder if kids are always kids, except when it's a Black kid involved. Because if crime is already assigned to color, it would not be hard for anyone. Well, I guess it's going to be hard for people with conscience, but we know that whiteness lacks conscience. Whiteness is bereft of conscience. So it was easy for them to be able to imagine a 14-year-old grabbing a woman in her 30s, or is it 20s? I can't even remember how old she was when she said that, but it would make sense for them to be able to imagine a 14-year-old boy grabbing a woman by the waist and whispering or uttering obscenities to her. It makes sense for the racist white person because they have been socialized to see Black as evil, to assign crime to a color. And I often think if Emmett Till was white, it would be very easy to say, oh no,
Right.
a 14-year-old boy does not have such a vocabulary. A 14-year-old boy cannot do such a thing. But because it's a Black boy involved, it was easy. It was easy to say, yeah, he definitely did it.
Mm-mm.
And at night I said abducted, then bracket stolen, because I feel like abducted does not do justice to what happened to him. He was stolen, but when you say stolen, you could see how, because I feel like to steal is something that you would I guess classify with an object, like how you steal objects, but
Exactly.
you abduct human. But I purposely had to put that, and I had to put stolen in bracket for the reader to be able. So it was my intention that when the reader sees the word stolen, they will wonder why I had to put that in bracket when I already said abducted, because I want them to understand that the black life is worth nothing. That is the mathematics of black life. They can profit off of you, but at the same time you are worth absolutely nothing to the racist white person. So Emmett Till was worth nothing to them, and that was why he was stolen, and he was maimed and drowned. That's a very triggering poem, and it triggers me to read it. It triggers me to read it. I don't know how I got through it. It's so triggering to read, but at the same time, I want it that way. That is something that I want for everyone who reads it to. I want them to kind of be haunted by that poem.
That's the word.
I want them to be haunted by it. I don't want them to easily forget Emmett. And not just Emmett. I don't want them to easily forget the word. Now, this world is not working. It's not working for anybody. It might be working for the racist white person. But the racist white person, I think in the words of Toni Morrison, I remember she was saying, but don't the racist white person understand that race is also a construct? So if I take, and oh, how I love Dr. Toni so much. She went on to say, but if I take your race away, what do you have left? And then she says, look at you, all strung out. Are you still tall? And then she went, oh my God, she went on to say, if you can only be tall because you were standing underneath someone, then you have a problem. And her feeling was that white people have a problem and they have to figure it out. So I don't want anyone to read that poem and just move on. I want them to understand that this world, the way it is set up, has failed everybody, including the racist white person who might be oblivious to the ways that racism is failing even them. Because it's testament to how depraved they are. It's testament to the fact that they are bereft of something. Humanity, conscience. I mean, to think that slavery and racism and all these terrible things has been going on for almost 1,000 years. Because this shit started in the 80s. In the 18 something, I don't know the exact date. Until today, we are still talking about, like, why are we having a conversation about the rights of Black people to life? Why is that a conversation? So if the racist white person does not understand that racism and the fact that they participate in it is testament to how bereft they are of humanity, of conscience, then I don't know what to do with them. Take me out of that nonsense. I have no business. I don't know what to say to them. So this world has failed everybody. We need to start all over again. And it's interesting because I'm currently writing an essay. And I was looking at the word reset. So dictionary defines the word reset as in to set again or differently. And in my essay, I am arguing that setting this world again does not do justice, because it means that everything is going to fall into place only for it to fall out of place. What we need is a world that is wired differently. So reset as in to set differently. What we need is a world that is wired differently, a world that will not give rise to the institutions that continue to oppress Black people, the queer Black person, the disabled Black person, the like, we don't need a world that thrives off oppression. We don't need that world again. So I guess that was what I was trying to channel in that poem. I wanted to haunt people. It triggers me to read it. And if it triggers me, everybody has to read it to understand the level of what we are talking about. Because people don't read books these days. People don't read books these days. So I don't even know if they're going to be able to read that poem. But also, I kind of like, anyway, point is, I don't want to go off tangent and lose my train of thought. Point is, I want people to be able to, if they don't remember anything else, I want them to remember that Emmett was 14. I want them to question what happened to him, because we are still grieving Emmett. We are still grieving him. Recently, I heard of the story of, I can't remember his name, but he's a Fredericks. That is his last name. A 16-year-old boy who was killed in the same way George Floyd and Eric Garner was killed, just because he threw a sandwich. I want them to be able to think, why is that still happening? And when the author has consistently said we need a new world, I want them to be able to imagine new ways of living. And I get that this world is not going to burn down in its literal sense, but I want them to begin to think about how they can set their own world differently in the ways they relate with other people, to the same-sex attracted, to the disabled, to the poor people, to people who don't have the same economic or educational background as them. I want them to be able to think about, when the reader is calling for a new world, what does a new world mean?
We need a new world. How simple of a statement that is. And if you think about what you're saying to a reader who may think there's nothing wrong with the current world, why is the author writing that we need a new world if they think the world is perfect as it is, So I think even reading that highlights what's going on in the world, what's wrong with it, or even get you thinking, like, what is wrong with the world? If you're walking around with blind eyes and you have no idea what's going on in the world, it's required. We do need a rewiring of the world, the people of the world, the hearts, the minds.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for writing that and for sharing that. Definitely needs to be not just read and moved on, as you said, but really pondered and meditated on, as haunting as it is.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, I'll end with this one question. What are you leaving the listeners with today? About you as a person, or any message you want to put out there, what is that message?
We need a new world. That's the message. We do need a new world. And I would like for whoever is listening to this, or whoever is going to stumble upon my poem, I want them to be able to imagine new ways of living, new ways of interacting with the people in their lives. And I feel like if we can imagine that, then we can be a bit more kinder. We can be a bit more compassionate, a bit more loving. I don't have any deep message to share, just that we need a new world. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's okay, Leslie. You're welcome.
Thank you for talking with me and for sharing your experiences and your poem, your art, and further resources. I have a long list to Go through. Thank you.
No worries. No worries.
Oh, do you want to put your socials out there?
Yeah, they can follow me. But you know what? The thing is, it's always bound to change. I always change my Instagram name. But what I'm going to say is that I have a book coming soon, and it's called Ink and Some Feelings.
Ink and Some Feelings?
Yes.
Ooh, I like that.
Thank you. That's the name of my book. But my Instagram name is called Sultry Waves with double S at the end. It's bound to change anytime.
So Sultry Waves, 2 S's on Instagram, and
Yeah.
we'll keep an eye out for your book, Ink and Some Feelings.
Yes.
Peace.
Thank you. Yeah, but peace. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.
And for engaging me in this. You know, I personally love the conversations, even though I told you ahead of time that I have a tendency to go off the tangent, but still I had a very good time. I enjoyed the conversations, and there were things that I said that I would go back to kind of like think about and think through again. But all in all, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I had a great time. It was great talking with you. You're so cool to talk with.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening. Hope to catch you in the next episode. All original music produced by Stubborn Soul. You can find him on all music listening platforms at STBRNSAL. Peace out.